Maria, you ready?
Yes.
Luis, you ready? Abby, you ready? Let's go! Luis Rodriguez, everyone.
Alright, so who here has ever been in the position to give a second chance or has ever been given one? Okay, nice. So second chances are like everywhere. They're in court, relationships, jobs, friendships, and in my case it was school. So I'm one of those people who was given a second chance, and I'll be telling you that story today. So my personal story with second chances. So I got my first car when I was a junior here, and like maybe 3 months into my first car, I got into a car accident with my dad. I hit him in the back when I was following him somewhere to go eat, and yeah, he was pretty upset. But like the kind of person I was with the car, like once I got the car, I was never home. Like I would always be out because I had a car, obviously. But like once I got into a car accident and it was getting fixed for like about a month or so, I would, like, it didn't stop, like, the person who I was. I would always go out. I would just walk everywhere. And I would walk everywhere with, like, my book bag on. And so this one night before school, I was at my friend's house. And I had rolled 2 little blunts, maybe about, like, this small, like an inch or 2. And I put it back inside the little sack, and I hid it inside my book bag, I guess. Obviously, I hid it pretty well because I didn't find it, like, when I was going to school. And so I didn't intend to bring this stuff to school. So I get to school, and it's probably second or third period, and one of my other fellow advisories had gotten caught with loose weed, I guess, and it smelled. So they searched the whole advisory. So I'm in the locker, like I'm like, all right, search it, go ahead. Like I don't have anything to hide. And so they're looking through my backpack, and they pull out a blunt wrapper, and I'm just like, oh, man, like okay. So then they pull it out, so they don't look inside. They just see it's a blunt wrapper. So I'm like, okay. Whatever. So they put it down, they start looking through all my other stuff, and then they go inside my wallet, and I'm just like, alright, whatever. And then they pulled out 2 pills, and I was just like, oh, these again. So I had forgotten that I put these 2 pills in there because my dad had like about 4 or 5 surgeries with very like bad chronic back pain. And sometimes he would run out of his prescriptions because he was obviously addicted to these pills. And I just felt like I was in the place like with everybody, all the connections that I knew, like, everybody's like seems to sell drugs these days, so like I bought some pills for my dad to help his pain. So I had just forgot to give it to them, and then I left them in my wallet, which is a stupid place to put it. And so they end up finding these things, and then they find out that Mr. Lee goes back inside of the blunt wrap, and he looks inside, and then he empties it out, and I was like, oh, so they found it. And that's when they found 2 little blunt wraps. And then after this, I had to go inside of the office, and I was just looked at as a person that I really wasn't, just because of these things. And I was pretty upset because, like, the way that they just looked at me, and when I knew, like, in my head, like, I felt like everybody did these things, like, in our society today. So, but then again, that's obviously not an excuse. So through this, I had to do a lot of makeup things. Like, I had to really prove to people that I wasn't that person that Mushin had thought I was at one point, even though, like, and I'm very glad that they gave me the second chance to come back and stuff. But I had to go through a whole trial, and that was my second chance right there. And it was like, I don't know, I had really big butterflies in my stomach the day of because they finally, like, had the verdict of what was going to happen, and they said that I had to go to another school and that I would come back during second semester. And that's when I got my second chance. And to finish this little story off, I came back. Like, most people ask me, like, wow, like, why'd you come back, like, Mushin, because everybody knows how it is or whatever. And, like, especially compared to, like, a public local school that I went to where, like, education really wasn't valued there. And, like, teachers, nobody would pay attention to the teachers. Like, security guards would help kids ditch school and stuff. Like, it was really bad, but really different compared to Mushin. And, but I wanted to come back to graduate with all my friends and do what I planned to do since freshman year. And next slide. So, does anybody know who Berto Aguayo is? Raise your hand. Anybody? No? Alright, good. So, I have this video about him to present. And basically, Berto Aguayo was a gangbanger growing up, and he decided to take the initiative to turn his life around. This is his story.
Former gang member once lived a troubled life of crime and violence, but he turned things around and hopes his story of success can help others. He's one of Chicago's very own.
And I remember it's an August night, and about 40 gang members are outside of my house, and they're waiting for me.
Former gang member Berto Aguayo Ohio, looks back on the 3 long and painful minutes that changed the course of his life.
I get put against the wall, and for about 3 minutes, I received from my former buddies a beatdown. Try to cover myself as much as possible. I was getting hit on the legs, I was getting hit on my knees, and after those 3 minutes, my friends carried me home because I couldn't really walk.
It was this brutal beating 3 years ago that allowed him to cut ties with the gang he joined when he was 13 years old. He underwent this violent ritual for a chance to start over.
So although it really hurt at that instance and physically I was hurt, I knew that better things were to come.
Ohio's story begins at 48th and Union in Chicago's Back of the Yards neighborhood. Growing up in a single-parent home, his mother, Rosie, worked long hours to provide for her children. And like many others in his shoes, he turned to a gang for acceptance.
They gave me a sense of belonging. They gave me an identity.
He earned a reputation as a troublemaker at Uno Garcia High School. But the school's director, Josephine Gomez, saw something special in Ohio and pushed him to turn his life around.
I basically let him know that he had the full potential to be a highly scholar, university student, and that everybody saw that. His teachers, myself, his parents, he just was the last one to really own it.
With Gomez's guidance, Ohio got involved with the Mikvah Challenge, an organization that lets teenagers get into politics, and he was placed with the Northside Alderman to learn the ropes.
I'd go on the bus from 48th and Hoff.
So why I wanted to share this video was because, like, what really stuck out to me is that he was so deep in this gang life, and, like, it just took one person that worked at Uno to help him, like, really see what he could potentially do. And that leads me to, like, the second chance kind of thing, because if it wasn't for that lady, like, that seen this guy, he was a gangbanger coming to school, obviously a troublemaker at school, she's still seen the potential in him and decided to give him a second chance and try to push his life to, like, turn around. And he ended up graduating college and getting, like, his life together, which I thought was really good. And he was given a chance. So this leads me to my why question, which was why second chances. And the reason why I think people should give it second chances is because most of the time people aren't ready the first time they get a try at something. And life is going to be full of failures, but it's all about, like, how you react from that failure and how you pick yourself back up. And the second time you get a chance at something, you're more likely to succeed because you're able to recognize the mistake that you made. The next slide. Well, yeah, and so for my solution, I really don't think that there's a definite solution to this, like to give people second chances, because you obviously just can't change the world and how people think. But some words of advice that I would like to give to people is to, like, when you're in the position to give somebody a second chance, you should really empathize with others and try to put yourself in that person's shoes, because you would want to, like, treat the person how you want to be treated. And, like, I know there's probably been a bunch of times where a lot of people, like, think that they deserve a second chance, but they just can't get it. And it's like, if you don't give somebody a second chance, like, you're just going to let that person live on with that thought in their head that they failed at something and they can't redeem themselves.